Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. Your number one stop for stellar reviews of volumes, arcs, or stories that us or yourselves choose. You can find us live every Wednesday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and the replay on all podcast networks. Take a seat, get yourselves and your opinions ready, as it's time to join the herd. But first, please put your hands together for your hosts, Shane, Phil, and Scott, as they kick off this week's discussion.
Hello, and welcome to what is sure to be another exciting episode of the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. It's Wednesday night. Where else would you rather be on a Wednesday night than here live on YouTube? With us three fine folk. How are we all? I am, of course, your host this evening, Phil, which means you're guaranteed a good book. Yeah. I'm not arrogant. I just did. In fact, I am joined, of course, by Scott.
All right. How's it going?
And Shane.
Oh, hoi hoi.
So the book we have read and we will be talking about this evening is Fantastic Four, Full Circle, and it is written, drawn, and coloured by Alex Ross with a little bit of help from a guy called Josh Johnson. So Alex Ross is going to take the mantle on this, no doubt. This is actually a which I believe is a new venture. This is Marvel and Abrams comics coming together. Just kind of showcase, I'm assuming, just the artist itself. And I actually have the hardcover myself, and it's like the magazine size books. It's quite different than the normal average comic book, but I'd imagine just because these two companies together want to do something a little bit different, and as I say, showcase some marvelous art. Let's see who we have in the chat this evening live. We have Lewis Deacon, who is saying howdy doody. How's everyone doing? The Funky Gibbons and howdy ho. We have Martin, evening all, who's feeling fantastic. Us all. We are all, after reading and looking at this, I think we all are. Yes. Don't forget I am in the chat, Phil. Okay. Does that mean that it's 4 to 10 tonight from me?
Oh yeah. It's because you're being so bullshit about it being your pick. So
Yeah.
he's there to take you down a peg.
This is true. But listen, we know Liam's score. It's going to be a 4 to 10. He scores all my books a 4. But who knows? Kevin is here. It's clobbering time. And we have Sam Taylor. Hey, Sam. And hey, all.
Hi, bud.
So, yeah. Fantastic.
Good group of guys today.
Yeah, it is.
As always.
As always. As it is every week, of course. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, so this book, synopsis is... What was the story about? I'm so enthralled by the art, I kind of forget the story. Yeah. So the Fantastic Four, they have a visitor, an intruder in their home. And it's some sort of... Well, it's a familiar face from the past, which is their body has been used as a shell that can have this nega life, this kind of life force from the Negative Zone. That, of course, entices Mr. Fantastic to go see what it's all about. He visits the Negative Zone, and he is faced with a familiar face of his, but like someone he thought was dead, not dead, is dead, and then obviously deals with this familiar face, who's the guy who was in the vessel, the body, who now lives in the Negative Zone. And yeah, I mean, I'm not really doing the story justice, but I think it's because I think the story was second to what the book actually is about. The story is more like a vessel of how I can showcase this amazing art. But yeah, that's the Fantastic Four in all their glory. We've got a bit of Jack Kirby influence here, I think, as well. And yeah. What do I think, Scott? Do you want to help me out here, because I'm struggling?
I know. I was just about to say the Jack Kirby side of things. I definitely got that vibe, specifically with the costume at the end that guy who was living on normal Earth and now is living on Nega Earth.
Ricardo.
That name threw me off as well. But yeah, the costume, very Jack Kirby-esque, and the city that they visited on
definitely.
Nega / positive Nega Earth. But yeah, obviously you see the name Alex Ross, and instantly, like, your brain lights up because you're just like, I'm gonna see some great stuff. Like, whatever it is, I don't care. He could redraw the Hungry Caterpillar, and I would love looking at it because he's just a fantastic artist. But correct me if I'm wrong. I think Phil, you told me last week that this was drawn, not painted, like his usual
Yes.
stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, so I was critical of Alex Ross in the past when it comes to his painted sequential art, which I find it's quite static. This is slightly different. Still
Yeah.
his art style, you can tell it's his, but it's drawn in the kind of usual comic book style with pencils and stuff. So it's not painted art, which is good.
Yeah, and it was awesome. Like, it was a cool story, really interesting story. I mean, I'll save that for the writing later. But initially, visually stunning. It's 66 pages long. If anyone's in the chat now and they haven't read it,
You've got time before the show finishes to finish it and come back and give us your score.
definitely, mate. It's a really good and concise and visually stunning book.
Yeah,
those are my initial thoughts.
Yeah,
just before
100%.
Shane, sorry, just before I interrupt you, I'll say hello to Connie, since Sup Nerds. And Kevin is actually saying this is what the MCU should look like.
No.
I think the cosmic element, certainly. This is very cosmic looking.
Yeah.
Oh, imagine if the Guardians of the Galaxy looked like this last week. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But MCU. We're talking about MCU now, and like I couldn't watch a 2-hour film in this kind of color scheme. It cooked me.
the colors are
wreck my brain.
too psychedelic.
Yeah.
It's
That's the word I got written down.
I think it's too sweet. Like you can't have too much of a good thing. Is that what you mean? Like that kind of thing? Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, before they go to the negative zone or the negative universe, whatever it was, the art there was just, the faces are so beautiful. The body proportions, there's nothing there that shouldn't be, no crooked, no head to the side, no twisted body. Everything is in proportion. The man knows.
Even Mr. Fantastic? Is he in proportion?
Well,
the disproportionate man is in proportion.
Well, I did like the start of it when he comes out and he's getting dressed, and Sue's like, "What's happening?" And they're like, "Why are you invisible?"
Oh, gross.
Gross.
Oh, dear. That was funny. That was fun.
But it was just nice to read a complete story. For once, a start, a middle, and an end. It just was a nice compact story that you can sit down and read, and you put it down and you're like, I finished it. I've actually finished a story, and that felt so satisfying.
Maybe we should do a graphic novel month. Like we have our themed months. Maybe we should do a graphic novel month where just one and done stories.
Graphic.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
that would be
wonderful.
That'd be cool.
Yes, I'm down for that.
Cool. Anyone else in the chat? Let us know.
And the thing is, I don't want to touch too much on the story itself, but I want to ask Scott this because there's probably more chance of Shane knowing some stuff about Fantastic Four than Scott. Did you know anything about this character before? Like, have you heard? Like, but did you feel like you were missing out on something beforehand with this?
No.
Okay.
No. And I wanted to talk about this in the writing section, but naturally I'll talk about it now, and that's fine. This is a book, and it's simple enough for new readers to pick up. As long as you know who the Fantastic Four are, the core team, then there's not a problem. I didn't think, in my opinion, a lot of the stuff was explained, even though it was explained very quickly. We have to remember this is a 66-page book, or less than that, content-wise. But this, what am I trying to say? Yeah, I picked it up really easily. I read along. I understood what was going on. They didn't waffle on. They didn't, lose too much real estate in the comic that they had planned out, filling me in on what they needed me to know for me to understand the prior relationships or whatever with these other characters. Honestly, not a problem.
With the art, obviously we spoke quite highly of it. Was there any stage where you thought this one page maybe wasn't as good as the others. You know what I'm trying? Like we've said off air, like whenever we're picking a page to show this week, you could literally open the book, plant your finger at any page, and pick that. Do you literally think it's that level? There's not one page that would maybe just isn't quite up to par.
I mean, that could have been the challenge we should have set. We should have each found the worst page in this book. That would have been harder to do than pick a great page.
Yeah.
I can't think of any.
I'm just having a quick flick through now, and I'm like, you could frame that. You could frame that. You could frame that. Apart from that one page where it's literally black. When they did,
there you go. We found one.
That's the worst one. The page with no art on it, the artless page. Totally stunning book and great, fantastic and awesome.
Do you think this is something then? Because in my opinion, I think the art kind of overshadows the story. The story was okay, but the art's the main winner for me here.
Yeah.
Is this something you want to see more of? Like, do you want to see more of these MarvelArts, collaborations with Abrams and try and get more artists to do things like this, but not care so much for the story? It's more this showcase your art style.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm assuming this story isn't like canon, or you know what I mean. It's not.
I would say it is only because it's so insequential to it doesn't impact anything. So it's just them in the Baxter Building and just go a little adventure, then come back. Yeah,
and I think tie-in.
Yeah, I think kind of guessing you're going to go with this is that if it was something that was canon, it would have to be a bit of a better story to fit in, and then maybe a case of the story overtakes the art.
And that's that is a little bit how I felt reading this. It's like, okay, Alex Ross, he must have read through a lot of Fantastic Four material and gone, I could fill this hole. Like this hole may have never existed, but he's like, I could just fill out or flesh out this little bit. And that's totally what it felt like. But I'm not detracting from the point that this is a decent and good and fun story. I've never read anything about the Negative Zone, so it was new for me and interesting. But I'm trying to think now. If this was drawn, I'm trying to think. I don't want to say an artist less than Alex Ross, but you know what I mean. Just a level lower, like a level lower, a level lower than this kind of like immense detail and color. Then would I have enjoyed the story as much? Because obviously, reading comics, it's a visual medium. They go hand in hand. Like if someone handed me this story, but it was drawn by a 4-year-old child, am I going to enjoy that story? But then if I read the same story drawn by one of the best comic artists in the world, I might be a bit biased.
So what if Alex Ross had drawn Onslaught? Would we have liked Onslaught a little bit better?
Probably. We would have. The art for Onslaught was a bit so I would have enjoyed that a bit more.
Snot Girl, Alex Ross Snot Girl,
I'd read
volume 3.
Yeah. And this might be a bit of a hot take. Obviously, we were all young men here. It's like we weren't around with we weren't around with the Jack Kirby era. So I'm giving you some credit there. Shane, you're older than us, obviously. But as good as Jack Kirby was, I think he's more like a trailblazer. Where we read the Internals. That was a Jack Kirby book, wasn't it? And I wasn't overly keen on that art style. There's something about it I just did not like. Yeah. I don't know if Jack Kirby would be as successful today as he was then, but I definitely think Alex Ross is a good cut above Jack Kirby.
Yeah. Unpopular opinion, I think. Jack Kirby to like modern comic like influences is like how 2001 Space Odyssey was to sci-fi films when that originally came out. You watch that film now, it's terrible. Yeah. I don't like it. And I feel like that's why like Jack Kirby at the time was awesome, inspirational, amazing, and has inspired so many people to follow this and this type of career. But now
it's surpassed him.
He's been surpassed. Yeah.
but his ideas live on. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, without him,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have Darkseid and
Exactly.
in DC and
Yeah.
the Eternals and all the galactic stuff.
But that's,
we
that's the
wouldn't
thing.
have, so
Like Alex Ross has said, like he is Jack Kirby is his inspiration.
Mhm.
He was a Jack Kirby fan, and obviously we have this, and obviously art changes, like the techniques and the tools available to you change
Yeah,
over the
yeah.
years. But Alex Ross, I think again, they're in the same conversation, but not for the same reasons. I just think Alex Ross is just so much farther ahead than this, and yeah. I thought this comment was quite cool from Connie. It's the way her kind of quirky way of describe things. Just like I would say this as canon, but in what the Fantastic Four do on a Monday, you know?
That's so good.
Yeah.
I really like that. I really like
I
that.
think this felt like volume 1 of Fantastic Four, you know, 60s onwards. And then Alex Ross had obviously grown up on them and read all those. And then he had read, I don't know, just say issue 228, and the Negative Man had traveled to the Negative Zone and got lost there and was never heard from again. And then like 5 issues later, Reed Richards has this guy that gets sent there, you know, pretending to be the Thing. And then Alex Ross is like, no one ever went back to them. So I'm going to do issue 335.5, which is a tie-in canon story standalone thing. That's what this feels like. It feels like a fan-made book by someone who loves the content and the source material and is just closing some loose ends that he discovered while reading. You know, like we all do that when we're reading. We'll find a few little loose ends that the artist
do.
or the writer you know, the writer might just forget a few things, so you're
Yeah.
just like, oh, maybe this happened, maybe that happened. We don't get the chance to actually make that comic, but Alex Ross is like, this is what I would have done. So I think it's canon, but I think it's canon pre-reboot.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, this is volume
Yeah.
1 Fantastic Four canon.
Yeah, that's fair. And to be fair, I read it in a kind of I want to say Silver Age kind of fashion. Like it wasn't read like a modern book; it was read like an old style book, definitely. But it fits in today, obviously, to read it. But it's definitely written, like you're saying, as if it belongs in volume 1, 100%.
Like
One of
I was
my
thinking,
one of my notes, heavy 60s feel.
yeah, because I was thinking Sue Storm's hair looks 60s, you know, and I don't know how else to like explain it or like the only thing I can reference it to, you'll see in my page actually, and it's stuff that reminds me of Secret Wars, that kind of style. But I'll get to that later on. But the only thing I actually want to say about the art is, initially, I thought this book required 3D glasses. in the kind of like in the style that it was drawn, you know, you had the purple and yellow. I was expecting the red and blue. I was like, where's my 3D glasses to read this?
Nice. Just some input from the resident artist of the Nerd Herd. Kevin said, I think you need to learn to appreciate Jack Kirby as an artist. He is a better comic artist, i.e. storyteller, than Alex Ross. Ross is obviously a better fine artist. So there you go. That's the Jack Kirby influence, I suppose. He tells the story with his art.
Yeah.
Where I just think Alex Ross art is better to look at, I think. And Martin is saying that he's not a big fan of the Fantastic Four, but after reading this, he wants to read some more Silver Age Fantastic Four.
Got an itch for Silver Age, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And the good thing about Silver Age comics is each issue is pretty much standalone. Like you get to, it's a whole story. You know, you don't have to read 4, 5, 6 issues in a row.
A bit like this.
Very much like this. That's another reason I had the 60s feel from it.
Yeah.
Not that I was around in the 60s. I'm not that old.
Are you sure? I mean, you're closer to the 60s than we are,
yeah.
So we've obviously talked a lot about the art. So let's get into some pages, shall we? We've got quite a few in from the usual suspects and ourselves, of course. I'm going to start with myself. The reason being, like Shannon obviously mentioned, you can literally drop your finger in this book and pick any page. And this is the problem whenever you log into StreamYard late and you don't get your chance to have a first pick. So my first pick was gone, my second pick was gone, my third pick was gone. I had to settle for my fourth pick, which sounds madness to settle for a fourth pick as if it's a bad thing. Well, it's really not. So
no, because we all had 66 picks in mind anyway.
yeah, that's the thing. There was literally 66 pages you could pick from. So this is the one I picked, and it was to do. This is just before they fell back to the negative Earth or anti-Earth or whatever it's called. And they were just standing on this kind of platform looking down. But I love the costume, like the glow, like the metallic costume. You got the purples, and you got all this kind of, whatever the sun color or whatever the colors get off at the suns or whatever else, and it just looks really cool. The shadowing is really cool, and everything's really smooth and clear. And I don't like, we all talk about how good the faces are. They're all really good on every page, and I just thought this was a really kind of atmospheric page, just like standing in space, essentially on this rock looking down. And what I also liked about the art is that he seemed to use these diagonal lines quite a lot to tell the story. Yeah. And some people could argue there's too much, but I don't. I think it worked every page. It worked. Literally all the pages that have this, it works. That kind of storytelling.
Yeah, it's a really good way to just slightly expand the real estate of a page.
That's a good way to put that. 100%.
I think if I'm not mistaken, it happened once they entered the negative zone. Before then, everything was straight.
No, they were. Yeah, it was. I'm looking at the page now. It's page 24 if anyone's interested. It's just as they are entering it, and the page is very diagonal.
Yeah, it's before they hit
40, it's like 45 degrees.
Yeah.
It's just great.
Yeah. But it's just again, an unusual way, but Scott, you hit the nail on the head. It's a good way to get more real estate on a page. And for Alex Ross, you want all of that real estate.
Yeah.
Let's say even that one page we mentioned that was just all black. He wanted to use every inch of every page.
Yeah.
I just love that Sue's hair is just flowing completely different in every single panel as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic stuff he does. I'm gonna save Kev's for last because Kev was actually my first pick, and I think it's the best page.
Okay.
So, we will go with Connie. Did Connie give any kind of synopsis or any kind of reason for it?
Connie had said it has the same energy Oogie Boogie's lair did in The Nightmare Before Christmas with the black and green neon vibes.
Yeah.
Oogie Boogie.
The thing down in the bottom left, just below his face, it looks like Man-Thing.
Yeah. I was going to say that. Yeah.
Oh, it does, yeah. It does. You're right. I find this scene quite confusing, though, and maybe I'll ask you more in the writing, but it was whenever he kind of coughed out this bubble and said, Sue, thanks for holding my breath or something. I didn't really understand what happened there. Maybe one of you guys can explain near the time. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
No.
Nice,
yes.
okay.
So, the little negative creatures go down your throat. So Sue put an air bubble in their throat to stop that happening.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. I thought it was something like that, but I didn't want to assume because I thought I'm usually wrong. And I assume, But, so yeah, that was Connie. Then we have Lee, who gave us this.
Lee had said, I bloody love the art and colours in this book, and I struggled to pick a page for that reason. I ended up going with this one because of the classic horror movie poster vibe I got from the panel of the face.
That definitely does shout like 70s horror movie.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. It's like a Clockwork Orange-esque as well.
Yeah. Was anyone else looking at that face and thinking, Noel Fielding?
Yeah, me. I was.
What, this one?
Yeah.
I love the big green face in the top corner. It's very Joker-esque.
Yeah.
Green Goblin.
Big old grin.
Yeah. That's a cool page. Shane's also one I wanted to pick. Go ahead.
Well, after last week's, I told you how much I love a getting ready montage.
Mm-hmm.
And it just happened to have one in this book as well, so I had to pick it. I just really enjoy these, the team getting ready. I do love the fact that Reed went to all the trouble of creating a new suit for everyone, and the thing still just gets a pair of pants.
Still gets pants. Yeah. I like that.
And even if you were trying to save on material, his own suit stretches out, so there's plenty spare. You could easily cover the thing if you really wanted.
Yeah,
he just didn't.
He just wants to control him. Puts him back in his place.
Get in your pants, Ben.
Yeah, you're the word trunks. Yeah.
But yeah, also back before they enter the negative zone, like I said, everything is straight, everything is blocked, no angles. They
Yeah.
kept everything straight to show, the two different worlds. And the color scheme, as bright as it is,
Yeah.
it's not Neo. This is more highlighty, yellow and green and blue.
Yeah.
But I still love that effect on the suits, because they're blue. They're not that color. That's obviously like the light's reflecting off it, but it just looks really cool, really clever that it's done.
And can I just
awesome.
quickly say, how hot is Mr. Fantastic in this book? Like I thought Johnny Storm was meant to be like the hot one on the team, but Mr. Fantastic is just incredibly yummy throughout this book.
he is
Incredibly
really
yummy.
handsome.
That's going to be the next review on the reprint for this book. Mr. Fantastic is incredibly yummy. That was great.
All right, Scott, let's show us your page.
This is so cool. I just love the chaos in it and just the speed and just the perspective. You're seeing everything. You know what I'm talking about. Just the depth that we're looking at. You got the thing's feet right there, and then you follow his body down. You can see his face and stuff like that, and you can just see Mr. Fantastic all the way down there, but he's stretched and he's kind of wrapped around everyone. But the thing I was talking about earlier with the Secret Wars kind of vibe was like the red and black kind of little circly bits going around. Yeah, the matter. And that definitely made me think of when we read the first Secret Wars way back when. It was just such a cool page, and obviously Phil, it's got the pinks and purples, and really, really cool. Just love the depth and perspective. Really, that was my most attracting aspect of that.
That's what I thought the same. It's just again learning from Kev's videos. It's the perspective as the reader you're looking at, and the fact that he is so far away, but his arms are like make your eye follow to the top of the page. It's really cool. I enjoy that. Kev did send his. This was my first pick. I thought this was incredible. I took a little while to look at this, just because it was so cool.
Such a great page. He said it was difficult to choose my page choice. I like the homage to Jack Kirby's collages, and I really like the way the Fantastic Four pop against the black and white negative zone.
Yeah, I think that was the main thing that suited for me, was the color pop. I've no idea what's going on, if I'm being brutally honest, with the negative zone. There's just a lot of stuff, a lot of shapes, a lot of things. It kind of reminds me of like the Ant-Man movies. He's going into like the whatever that's called, the realm or whatever. And
Quantum realm,
so it's all just a bit mad and chaotic and just has shapes and factors and whatever else. And then you have like the Fantastic Four still the same color, same pop. It's just really cool. And even those three kind of columns at the side, like they're going through three different stages to get to this negative zone. That's
it. It's kind of like Doctor Strange too, when they travel through the universe of Chavez. Again, look at Sue's the muscles on her body as the light is hitting certain parts. Like, he doesn't forget any detail, does he?
No. You kind of have to wonder, with a page like this, like Alex Ross, obviously a talented, world-class artist, but at a page like this, how long would it take to do this one part? And he's done another 64 of them, because this was a double-page spread. You know what I mean? It's just it's just a lot of time. It's a lot of time. Yeah.
It is. Are we not going to mention the funny shape thing at the bottom in the middle?
So
it's an eyeball.
It's an eyeball. You can see the face, obviously, at the top of the nose and the mouth, whatever else. So it is an eyeball, but for the podcast, you could be forgiven to think it is a scrotum, I suppose. But it is an eyeball, the back of an eyeball. So I believe anyway, but I am quite naive in general. So
innocent, Phil. So innocent.
100%. So that's all the pages we got sent in. I just think overall the art, I mean, look, it's the main point of this book, really, but I just thought the art's fantastic. Really, really good. Really enjoyed it. And I kind of want more of it. But shall we move in more to the story aspect of it and the writing style? Because Alex Ross obviously is not known for his writing. I can't think of anything he's done, to be brutally honest. But he's done okay for what this is. It was okay.
Yeah, like I say, this is it feels like fan fiction. Not in a nasty way. I don't mean that as an insult. I mean, this feels like someone who loves the characters and appreciates their history and just wanted to expand on something maybe a little personal to him rather than something earth-shattering, you know, where this could be included in canon if they wanted it to, but also it could be ignored.
Yeah, because my understanding is that this story that happened that Ben Grimm refers to, that what was his name, Ricardo appeared before him and tried to obviously take his face and whatever else, that is a story that happened in some random single issue back in the 60s or whatever, and was never thought of before. So it's almost like he's taken a like really inconsequential aspect of the Fantastic Four history and done something with it, where again, had he had his hands on something, how do I put this, like more important for people, they were going to be upset if he kind of ruined something or retcon something, you know. So it's just he's picked something that is kind of meaningless and made it something great.
Yeah. I've just looked it up. Very quick look on Alex Ross's Wikipedia page, and this book is the only book in his bibliography that says the word writer next to it.
Nice.
So
wow,
this very well may be the first thing he has ever written officially.
It's not like it's good. It's not bad. You know what I mean?
No,
it's not
yeah.
like it's as your first outing that you might struggle to pick things up and do things correctly. But we have read a lot worse than this.
I mean, you know, Alex Ross, he's been working since the 90s, so he's probably worked with some fantastic script writers and has picked up the odd thing here and there. You know, the influence of reading these scripts is probably subconsciously seeped into his mind, and he's probably taken a few things here and there from some great writers and just applied that to his own book with this.
Yeah. And I've also just looked it up, and Ricardo Jones appeared in Fantastic Four issue 50, February 1966.
There we go.
Wow.
Were you there? You weren't there, Shane. Do you have that? No, you didn't buy that?
Yeah, I was there with Stanley, and Jack Kirby. The three of us were there.
Well, I didn't say you were friends. It's not like
how to add Ricardo Jones.
No, that's a stretch. I just meant that we were to buy the comic in the shop. Not that you know Stan Lee, but yeah. Just want to say hello to Triple G Comics. It's in the evening. Sorry I'm late.
Buddy.
That's okay. And I need to delete it. James Copley. Saying what up, nerds?
Hi, bud.
Yeah. I think, you're right. He's been around the game a long time to pick things up. But I also think he did keep a lot of things simple. Like we found with the Guardians of the Galaxy last week, I sometimes think with Marvel Cosmic especially, they almost kind of overbury you with kind of sciencey stuff, names and terms, whatever else. There was a bit of that here, but not too much. Like, for example, when they went into the Negative Zone, they just obviously, pushed the button and went. There wasn't this whole big kind of elaborate plan, or you weren't kind of fed this information that was kind of like, what does this mean? You're just kind of brought to the Negative Zone almost. Yeah. I think the suits was the most kind of scientific, descriptive part of it, which actually made sense. It was quite simple. It made sense in my mind.
Yeah, and I was going to bring up the suits, and we had them explained, but it was simple, and you get it explained in one speech bubble, and you're like, cool, I get the suits. Let's move on.
That's what I mean. Like I say, even there was no point I felt like, oh god, here we go, science.
Science.
It's just this is it. He's telling you what you need to know to appreciate the story, and again, for someone who's never written a book, a comic, or a comic book, whatever, well done, well played, good move.
Yeah, he didn't rely on monologue boxes. He didn't rely on just telling you hashtag this happened in this issue and this happened in that issue. He told a story. He had a start, a middle, and an end in mind, and he told you what you needed to know. Left out all the stuff you didn't. That's how you do a standalone issue. You don't bog people down with things that have happened in the past. Yeah,
it's just precise. It was just precision in what he had chosen to write and write about. Yeah.
It'd be interesting to know how, like what method he uses. You've heard of the Marvel method. I think it's called the Marvel method, isn't it? Where they kind of put the speech bubbles and things first, then draw around it, then tell the story type of thing. Right. I wonder if he had the story nailed down first, or did the story come after the art? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like he had the script in mind, and he drew it, so then he just fitted the speech bubbles in to have a coherent story.
I'm pretty sure you need the script first because you need to know what happens on a page.
Yeah, leave the story, but I don't know if you had the screenplay as such, or the dialogue. I don't think every time.
Oh, I would think he had to, because his art is so nice. He wouldn't want to go through all the effort of drawing this amazing page and then accidentally write too much and cover it up. Be like, oh, dang it! Now you can't see Sue's face. Oh well, they need to know what's happening.
Yeah.
Kev is offering here. He says the plot, art, dialogue. So
that's
like
dangerous. That is
that
dangerous.
his process?
I think that's the Marvel process. Yes, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that Kev? Do that yourself in your books? Let us know. And Pete saying the Marvel method is rough outline of the story, art first, then they add the words.
That is so dangerous. I mean, you should have your script completely finished. You know, you would write it like you would a movie script. So it, you know, camera pans in on this. We start on street level. Like they're all the directions for the artist, and then you have your dialogue so the artist knows where to draw on the page. Because otherwise, if you're the editor, you've got to cut out some things, and it could explain why some of the books we've read have felt like there are things missing because they just didn't want to cover up too much art.
Really interesting.
I'm not too sure, to be honest, how many current comic book creators use that method any longer. Like, there's a documentary on Disney Plus where Dan Slott does it, and everyone after Dan Slott is really frustrated with it because they want to get their part of the job done, but he delays things with his writing, obviously, because it comes after. So I'm not too sure how many currently do it. But again, with this being a standalone, like he's fully in charge. Like I can imagine that they give him all the time in the world to do this because it's Alex Ross.
Yeah, exactly.
So he could have done it that way. He could have had the art nailed down first with an idea of the story and then filled things in. And that's why, for me, that's why I was thinking, because it was so quite simple and precise, you know, which makes sense to me. Liam is saying he felt the story started strong, but when they got into the negative zone, it took a backseat to the art. However, this could be down to how I read it, as I definitely kept getting distracted by the art, and I did too. I think there's, especially in the negative zone, it was very busy. You know, there's just like a lot of random shapes and plant thingies and animal thingies, whatever. So you kind of had to look at a lot of things.
Yes,
but it wasn't a chore. It was good.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like this, you know, slightly incoherent nightmare sequence. You know, they land in this place, and what's his name? Annihilus. He's there just like eating those black things that attacked him originally, like the popcorn, and then they move on, and then they're having that weird psychedelic trip with Noel Fielding, and then and then they end up. What happens next? And then let me just flick through. And then they end up going towards planet in where original Ricardo is. So what I'm trying to say is a lot of the start of it just felt like, what is going on? Like, why are they doing, like, what's the goal here? Like, they've just gone to the negative zone because they followed these coordinates, and then they just ended up going through these random sequence of events, like probably would have happened if they weren't there anyway. Kind of like how the Indiana Jones films go out, and then they just end up in the city. They meet OG Ricardo, and they just go, "Oh yeah, you can have some of my stretchy suit if you want," and they shake hands and they go home.
Well, that's a little oversimplification.
That's what happens.
They get drawn there. They get drawn there by Negaman, the negative man. He's there, you know, he's drawn them in, he's trapped them there.
Who is Negaman?
He's Reed Richards. Yes, Reed Richards' old
mate,
old friend that got lost there,
but
who's now a negative version of him. No, he's more like an echo of him, because Reed does say, he says the place is created by people's nightmares. So you feeling like it's a dream sequence fits in quite well.
Yeah.
But so once they deal with him, by the time they've dealt with the negative man, they are too far away from their escape velocity that they need to get out of the negative zone. So they have to go towards the planet and find a way home. You know, it's there for a reason. You can tell the steps are there. I think maybe it's 66 pages. He didn't have time to linger on everything.
That's why I think it actually turned out to be quite a clever story. The fact that it is short and simple at times, but the idea that he went to the negative zone and you can't really have this kind of action sequence and then your escape in 66 pages. So you had to do something. And they did kind of brush over it, and in that they referred to that guy. Was it Janus? Something Janus? Jonas. And like it's not really him. He's dead. He died years ago. It's his echo, and it's like the dream sequence. It's like it's your imagination of what's there. And obviously, Mr. Fantastic is maybe haunted the fact that he left people behind. And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. I just think it's quite a clever way to get to the next stage of the story.
Yeah.
To then get back to the original part. And
I forgot about that bit.
That's not something you would associate with. You know, that's an established writer, in my opinion, to kind of put that level of story onto it, where it's quite simple. So I enjoyed it.
I mean, he's essentially Reed Richards. You know, it's his own self reflected back at him of people that he's failed. You know, he failed Jonas. He didn't know Jonas was there. And then he also failed Ricardo, who he thought was his friend at the time, but turned out to be a fake person who took the Thing's body. Like, if you could swap places with any of the Fantastic Four members, though, you'd definitely take the one that's boning the Invisible Woman, wouldn't you? You wouldn't take the Thing, surely. If you had the power to just switch. Come on now.
See, this is a bit of a negative too. Well, it's not really negative. It's like, so Mr. Fantastic also creates these suits that are help with the antimatter, the negative zone, and the negative Earth, whatever. But in this really advanced, super advanced world where they obviously can get home from here, this negative world, whatever, who are able to like deflect asteroids and whatever else. He's still sitting there with like an old Iron Man Mark 1 suit, to keep all that kind of held within. Like, you'd think to yourself you would have a suit like Mr. Fantastic to do that,
but Mr. Fantastic has all the resources of the real world. They only have the resources of that one planet. Mr. Fantastic has the resources of the entire galaxy.
This is true. And he does actually.
And Reed Richards is a genius.
Yeah. But I mean, it was a quite heartwarming moment whenever the fella shed a tear. And what I was thinking, something Shane says every week, that they don't build characters up enough to care about them. And he wasn't really used that much in terms of the overall story, apart from the start and the end, obviously. But did you care for it? Did you feel for this guy?
Yeah, that was a really sweet moment. Just something as simple as, here's just a piece of material that can just actually change your life completely. I thought that was really nice.
I thought it was nice, but I didn't feel anything.
Yeah, there's been books we have read where you can feel a bit choked up with emotional moments like that. I don't think it didn't hit that for me. It is 100% a nice moment, and it was a nice touch that this guy who you maybe thought was a villain with the vessel, the body, whatever else, and you realize, no, I survived here, and I live here now, and I have to wear this big stupid suit because I've no choice or I'll die. And the idea that like he now has like a flexible, it is a nice moment, but I didn't feel, I felt more emotional reading Stray Dogs, that kind of thing. It wasn't that level of emotion. And I don't know if that's because they didn't try to build the character up, or else they just couldn't because of the limited pages.
Yeah.
But maybe it wasn't for us, it was for them. It was for the characters in the book.
Yeah, well, Mr. Fantastic obviously felt he was just glad to know he was still alive, and what he could do for him, he would. And obviously they obviously helped him get home as well. So,
and he kind of created his own little Fantastic Four on that planet, didn't he? He had like the Beast guy, the Flying Woman. They weren't named, but the four of them look pretty cool together.
Little team, yeah.
I kind of want to, like, if anything was to come from this,
Negative Four.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If anything comes from this, I kind of want to see more of that. Like that team, that little lion beast looking guy, or whatever, and just give us something. Yeah, just give us something quirky, I just thought it was really cool. Yeah, give us more of it. And another standalone Alex Ross story. I'll read it. I'll be happy with it.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've never even heard of this book. It's a new one as well. It's only from 2022. So I know Alex Ross's older work. But when I opened it and that first page of Ricardo standing outside the Baxter Building, and he's got the cloak on and he looks like death. And I just thought, what a great way to start a book. Like, that draws you in instantly.
Just this ominous figure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it could be anyone.
Yeah. And again, you had the perspective, and it was like below, so this person just looked huge up against the building.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just this ominous, like, I don't know, squiggly cloaked, you didn't know if it was energy, you didn't know if it was weird material, you didn't know, it was just mysterious and black, dark, yeah. Cool.
And he just bursts into the building, and Johnny and Ben are there. Ben just wants a sandwich. Ben just wants a sandwich.
I like that was the full circle for me in this book. Him trying to eat his sandwich at the beginning, and then him getting it at the end. Fantastic Four, full circle. The Thing gets his sandwich. That's the subtitle of the book.
Yeah.
Do you think all members of the team were used enough, like correctly, or there was no one kind of was there for the ride? I think they all kind of played their part in the story, and I think that's another thing Alex Ross done well, was to use them all for different reasons, even if it became Johnny breaking through the earth or the rock, whatever, to get out. And I just feel like everyone had their reason for there. Where sometimes I think with team books and team stories, you are going to have people just take a side step and just be there for the sake of it.
It's hard as well, especially with characters like Sue. I mean, she's so powerful. Like, you had that page, that great page of them all going towards the planet, where Mr. Fantastic is wrapping around them all to try and slow down the descent. Well, Sue can create force fields and put them in a bubble and float them down nice and gently. So she could have done that, but it wouldn't have looked as dramatic as Mr. Fantastic doing it.
Yeah.
So it is hard when you have multiple people with different power sets to choose what you want each person to do. But I thought they were all used quite well.
Yeah, they're quite used equally, but I don't think I'm able to comment on if they were used correctly. I've never read Fantastic Four. I'm aware of their abilities, but then personality-wise, and the actual capacity of their abilities, I don't know. So equally, yes, they're used well, but correctly, I have no idea.
Well, saying that, because Martin referred to earlier on that he was now in the mood to read more Silver Age Fantastic Four. Not so much Silver Age, but this want to make you kind of look into the Fantastic Four to see if there are other stories, maybe other standalone or short runs that you would read. Has this piqued your interest in Marvel's First Family? No.
Okay.
No, not even to see Namor pop up and become creepily obsessed with Sue.
No, like
not see the Inhumans join the team.
I don't know what it is. Like, I can appreciate that they're a really good team, and a lot of people really like the Fantastic Four as a team and the characters themselves. But you know me, I'm an indie guy. I love my indie stuff, so it's going to take a lot for me to really, get into a particular Marvel or DC character or team. Really enjoyed it, but I'm not bothered about going back or looking into other stuff.
I'm of the same opinion, because with the Fantastic Four, I have read some of the more recent stuff, and I think you have to be a real Fantastic Four fan from previous years to really enjoy them. Like, what I mean by this is, I don't think they do a lot. Like, they're nice, and they obviously get to an end, and they talk their way of things, but they don't fight their way of everything. They do come to resolution a lot of the times, in a nice way. Like, I know for you, for example, Scott, you like a lot of magic. When you see it on the page, whatever, that's the kind of thing you like.
Yeah.
I don't think they do something like that that's out of the ordinary that makes you think, wow, I want to see more of this. I just think they just plod along nicely and do nice little stories. But that's me from a person who's never read that much, just going by the more recent stuff in the last few years. They don't seem to do a lot.
I mean, no, they do a lot. I mean, they're Marvel's first family. You know,
Mhm.
Marvel call them the first family. They're the family of Marvel. They came out, and I really enjoy them as a team and as characters. I just got a little bit. I used to get a little bit annoyed because they were treated so much different to the X-Men. Like the X-Men were outcasts, and if you were a mutant, you were a dirty mutant, and all this. Like they had anti-mutant liberation front, this and all that malarkey. And then the Fantastic Four show up, who pretty much have the same powers as some of the X-Men, and they're praised and celebrated, and just because they got hit with cosmic rays instead of having a birth defect.
Their son's a mutant,
Yeah.
isn't he? The son's a mutant, from what I remember.
Yes.
Can't think of his name. I
Um,
can't remember.
oh, that-
Anyone in the chat remember the son's name? But he is a mutant anyway. Pass.
that's
No.
I do. It's there.
I love that. I love that we have him stuck. You know. Liam is asking
That's so
Scott,
annoying.
what if
Franklin
the Flash,
Richards.
Franklin, that's the one.
Franklin.
There we go. What if the Flash joined the team? Like, why would they want the Flash? Surely they want a good, like the
well,
cyborg. You know, that kind of
He
thing.
can't because he's DC and this is Marvel, and that can't happen.
Yeah. Kev is confirming Franklin. And Martin is saying, I don't think I terrible reading it tonight. I don't think I would go out and buy an omnibus for it. But I would check out some Silver Age digitally. I'm not a big fan of Fantastic Four, or would I want to own any Fantastic Four books, but he's willing to check some out, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe check out some crossovers. You know, you get a great Spidey crossover.
Mhm.
Famous Bagman.
Yeah.
You know, Spidey in a Fantastic Four suit with a bag over his head when his suit gets destroyed. That's a fun read. And check out the Inhumans. You know, Johnny falls in love with an Inhuman, and that brings them into the Marvel universe. And you get some really good first appearances in their books. They did introduce quite a lot into the Marvel universe.
I think, to be fair, if I was going to get into the Fantastic Four, I think I would prefer to get into like the Thing books more than the team books. I don't know why. I'd happily read more Ben Grimm because he seems to be the one with more like
Bit of a personality.
Yeah, and a bit more angst.
Breaks my heart.
He doesn't want to be what he is because obviously he's a big rock who wears trunks, you know, and he hates what
It's so
happened,
sad.
whatever else.
A boulder
And that's
with
what I say.
speedos on.
I think there's more layers to him that you
Oh,
can
yeah.
you can use definitely, and that's what I like about it. And I think I would be more intrigued by him. And he does have individual books, but yeah, again, the team stuff I've tried and haven't been overly fussed on it. But the Thing on his own, possibly.
Yeah.
Kev is confirming that the Flash can run between multiverses. He could end
The
up in Marvel.
Flash has been in Marvel. There was a Marvel story where all the speedsters in Marvel were having a race, and Barry Allen shows up from Crisis on Infinite Earths and beats them all in a race, and then heads back to DC.
Wow.
There's no way he won that. He wouldn't win.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Liam was saying, cannot wait for the Fantastic Five.
The Flashtastic Five.
Flashtastic 5.
That'd be so good.
There we go.
I would read that, especially if it was drawn by Alex Ross.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do
we
it.
Have we have a Marvel, DC, and Abrams comics compilation right there. Who knows? I think that brings us kind of towards the end. I think there's nothing else I can think of to kind of bring up. What about Shane? Have you read all your notes out? Anything else in that notepad to discuss?
Yep. Got everything down. Nailed everything. Apart from one thing, Annihilus. I'm not too sure. Am I thinking it's the same person? Is he an Ultron clone?
Seems like it.
He does look, yeah, but I'm not sure.
I'm not too. I think
But
I may have
then,
forgotten who Annihilus is.
Yeah, well, again, as a kind of new or uninformed reader of the Fantastic Four, I didn't know. I just assumed there was this guy who lives in the Negative Zone. Doesn't have to be anything. And for this story, I don't think we needed to know. It's just
No.
Yeah, maybe he is the clone, but he does look quite a wee bit. Same kind of shaped faces.
Yeah.
As Ultron does.
Ultron-esque, yeah.
All right, folks, we're going to give our final thoughts and scores. So, any of you guys who are live in the chat, if you have read along, or not just read, just looked along with us, please pop your score into the chat, or the end of the chat, and we will collate them at the end and add them to ours and see where this comes on the leaderboard. I've already got Liam's 4 out of 10, so Liam don't bother putting anything in. But yeah, let's get to our
maybe you'll put you up to a 4.5 or a 5. Maybe, who knows?
We'll
The
see.
art was nice.
It could be groundbreaking tonight. Who knows? Let's go, Liam. Let's break that trend. Scott, do you want to kick us off then? Give us your final thoughts and scores.
Yeah. What haven't we said already? Fantastic to look at. Brilliantly detailed. The paneling going from quite normal to stuff we're not used to seeing, like especially when it got a bit 45 degrees. You have to turn your head really to view the page. It was all fantastic to look at, and it was a bit of a breath of fresh air recently. It's very different to what we're used to looking at. Story, considering this was the first thing we think that Alex Ross has written, it was done really well. Covers a lot of stuff, references a lot of old material, but kind of makes it a bit relevant and helps us understand really quickly without giving us a massive backstory of 2 or 3 pages. Done really well. Loads of interest in themes and technology and bits like that. Just a really good, fun book. But not quite as deep as I probably would have imagined this would have gone. As a 66-page book, how deep can it get? But yeah, really enjoyed it. I would recommend it if I ever met someone who was a proper art snob when it came to their comics. I'd be like, mate, read this, it's cool. So I think I'm going to go for 7.5.
Nice. Do you know, I sometimes predict scores for the guys when it's my week. I had 7.5 then for Scott. So
nice. Yeah. Good job.
Yeah. Shane, I'm not going to tell you what to put yours until you give me your score. So go ahead, Shane.
I love this. You can't fault Alex Ross, and if you can, you can't. So I think he's just fantastic. No matter how he decides to draw or paint, I will always admire the detail work that he puts into a single page. So art is flawless. So for that, full marks. The story I enjoyed. The fact that it's a short 66 pages or 60 pages. I think the first 6 pages of the copy I read were the initial art from the front and back of the cover. So I didn't get into the book for 6 pages. So it's 60 pages long. You can just knock this out with a cup of tea or coffee. And it's a full story. It's a start, a middle, and an end, which is something I crave on this show on a weekly basis. And I was given it. And I think the story felt to me like a love letter to Fantastic Four from a fan of the Fantastic Four, someone who either grew up reading it or once he discovered comics went back and read them and had them as his favorite or one of his favorite stories and decided to pick a few things out that never had an end or didn't need an end and just wanted to write something for himself and for the characters in this book. And I think he did an amazing job. I'm going to give this an 8.5.
Wow. How you doing for 7? So that's good.
7?
7?
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know. I just thought you would love the art, which obviously you did more than the story. But just think, I like it. 8.5. It's nailed. It's stuck. It's locked in. That is it.
You can fine 7 then. Fine. If you
no. All right. So we have a few scores in. I will give mine. I'm not going to say too much more other than what the guys have said. So if you guys haven't got your score in, get them in quick because I will be quick. The art's the star of the show. There's no question. It's fantastic. I think the story is like a vehicle to showcase the art. But the fact that this is his first outing as a writer as well, he's done bloody good. Things were kind of on purpose kept simple and precise for that reason. Because you don't want to get bogged down with kind of this heavy cosmic feel of Marvel, because the art, again, with this collaboration with, it's called MarvelArts, they want to showcase the art more than the story. It is quite can I say that word anymore? There's no consequence to the canon of Marvel, but I think this is canon because it's just, as Connie said, it's what they do on a Monday. They just pop into the Negative Zone, do a little thing, see a little guy get in a suit and bugger off back home for a sandwich. And I just think the way it was done was actually really well put together. Clever in a simple kind of way, because again, it doesn't need to be anything over elaborate. It's really good. Art's fantastic. You can't fault that art. Like I don't, and I'm not a big fan. I've said to you before, with Alex Ross, as fantastic as he is, the painted stuff for Kingdom Come and the like, I find it's just not dynamic enough. Where I don't know if it's just him being slightly different, or else the fact that he uses his pencils instead of painting, it definitely looks more dynamic for me in this. But everyone does look. They all look lovely. Every character looks great, as you mentioned, Shane, about proportions and things like that. Like they're just drawn really, really well. Attention to detail is fantastic. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I rate this a lot. But the story is simple, and as Scott had mentioned, I'm not going to be selling this to anyone for the story. It's the art. For any art snobs, like Scott's saying, I don't know any, but if they're out there, I'll be like, this book, it's a cool story, but it looks fantastic. So I'm going to go with Scott and give it a 7.5 as well.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, we have a few scores in. Scott, do you have them
quite
all?
a habit that I score Phil's books higher than he does.
Yeah.
Have we noticed this?
Yeah.
Yes, but this time around, I haven't read it in my books yet, whereas in previous years, I've read them all knowing that they should score high. So I'm going in blind myself. So it's like sometimes some books don't live up to my expectations. Scott, sorry, did you say you have them all down?
Yeah, all got them all down.
All right. Okay. So Kevin has said 8.5, definitely his favorite Alex Ross book. Connie has went with a 7.5. Thanks. Doesn't say why, but yeah. Liam, art is an easy 10. Story, I think a 7. And that averages out at 8.5, but it's Phil's choice, so it's a 2. We're going to give you an 8.5. It's a nice one. Thanks very much. That's groundbreaking here in the Nerd Herd.
Yeah, well done.
Martin has sent for his first Fantastic Four book. I enjoyed it. The Silver Age 5 was great, and the art was amazing as always. It's a 7.5 from him. And Sam Taylor has given it 8.5 as well. The art was fantastic and a nice, enjoyable story. And that's it. It was a nice, enjoyable story. That's a good way to put it. Nothing groundbreaking, just nice and good. Right. Okay. So yeah, then up, Scott. What's the herd's average?
So the herd's average come to 8.1.
And add that together with my 7.5, your 7.5, and Shane's 8.5.
We get 7.9.
Ooh, nice. 7.9. I think that might knock one of Shane's books off the top 10. Let's just double check where it comes on a leaderboard. Oh, it's my own book. Oh. Oh, well, that doesn't really matter. So 7.9. That goes in third. Yeah, see, that's my plan all along, is to get as many books as I can in the top 10. So now I have 3 currently.
1.
That's
Not.
no. So doing well.
I only have 1 in the top 10.
No surprise.
2 for me. Doing well.
But if you want to see where the rest of Shane's books are, here's the rest. They're all in there somewhere.
Wow.
But yeah, that's Fantastic Four full circle, folks. It was quite enjoyable. Enjoyed that. But that's not all for this week on the Nerd Herd. We have a few things coming up. Tomorrow night we have Kev and his draw along, how to draw the thing. That'll be interesting because that looks really cool.
It looks very cool.
After being on Pete's channel on Monday night, was it, where we done the art attack thing, I now want to draw more. So if you're like me, watch Kev's draw alongs and just try to draw more and better, because he'll teach you how to do that. So that is tomorrow at 7 p.m. Scott, if I'm correct, is that right?
Yep, 7 p.m. Yeah.
And then on Friday, if you want more of me and you want more of Scott, but not Shane.
Less of me.
Less of Shane. Friday night, have I give a time? I can't remember. 8 or 8:30, I can't remember. Sorry. We have What's All the Omni Fuss About? So it'll be Scott and I, along with Rich from Comic vs. the World. We'll be talking about pickups, reads, what's coming out, all that good stuff, having a bit of fun, bit of crack. So join us for that on your Friday evening. What else would you want to be doing? Yeah. And then going, of course, to next week's read. Let's see what we've got coming up. So take it away, Scott. What have we got coming up?
This is my pick for this wave. It's a book that I really enjoyed. It's called King of Spies, published by Image in 2021, written by Mark Millar. And yeah, Shane, this may scratch an itch of yours because this is a 5-issue one and done book.
Nice.
Awesome.
You mean a start, middle, and end?
Yeah, start, middle, and
that's
end.
That's all he wants. Great.
Yeah, really cool story. King of Spies. Get it ready, guys. Get it read and join in next week. It's going to be a good bit of fun reading this one.
I'm looking forward to that. I heard a lot of good, positive things about it, so that should be good. That's next week. So there's only one more thing to do this week. Am I right, Scott? Shane, there's nothing else I'm missing. I'm fully professional here this week.
Yes.
Let's get your waves out. Bye.
See ya.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Love you.